So what we're planning on doing today, the request from the user group team or the user group was to pick a category, create it, and follow it all the way through to weekly planning. Okay, so in order to do that, we need to pick a category as a group that we would find fun and interesting. So I have a few suggestions, and I'm happy to add other suggestions. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see my screen?
No.
Not yet? Okay, here we go.
Now it's coming on.
Okay, so we've got a few choices here. This is just to get the conversation started and get people thinking about what's something that is, I would say kind of light and fun, with enough depth so that we can follow it through the whole process, but not so much depth that we'll be here for 6 hours. So the choices that I've got so far are become a digital nomad. So whatever you do, and I'm hearing there are a few of you in healthcare, so maybe this might be beyond imagination. Do it from the world, from around the world, like become a van lifer where you drive around all over the place and just stop for 8 hours and do your regular day job and then keep going with your traveling. We've got Shamrock the Dog, which is a project to bring a new dog into a household, personal growth, personal finance, connecting with my inner artist, connecting with my inner athlete, intergalactic explorer, and productivity optimization and engineering. Any of those sound just horrible, like there would be nothing interesting in that category for you?
No, those all sound exciting. And in fact, I'm putting being a digital nomad down on my bucket list.
Good. Any thoughts that anyone has about other categories that we should add into the possibilities?
What does Shamrock the Dog mean?
Shamrock the Dog is for a family that doesn't have a dog at all. The category of adding a dog to their family.
Oh, okay.
And I arbitrarily picked Shamrock as the dog's name.
Okay.
Okay, so if there's nothing on any of these categories that's inherently like ugh, and all of them seem kind of fun, well, let's spin. Let's find out what we're gonna do. And we landed on Shamrock the Dog. Okay. All right, so I am going to unshare at this point, or actually I am going to close this. And from here, go to this screen here where I have RPM up in the background. Give me just one moment to find it.
You open that space?
Okay. So we should see my RPM calendar at this point, the multicolored thing that it is.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we are going to create a new category.
Now, question for you, sorry to jump in. So now so now you're making a category about maybe adding a dog. But that would be sort of like, are you saying that categories are then going to always changing?
I think it depends upon your viewpoint. For me, where I am single with no kids, it would be a category. for someone that has, let's say a family of 4, Shamrock the Dog might fall as a project under the category of magic moments for the family. So it's a little individual in terms of the level of detail that you want to bring to it. And there are ongoing goals associated with the dog, at least for the next year, so that we can work with the example here. Okay, so any other questions at this point? Okay, and so this is the part of the where Tony spent a lot of time. And for the purposes of our trainer, we're going to say, hi, Tony. Please give me an ultimate vision, role, purpose, and purpose.
How did you get there? Oh, hers is in white.
Shamrock the Dog category.
Please give me an open vision.
Creating or training. So the expectation is, if you can, that you're creating your own category called Shamrock the Dog as well.
So you're using the AI to give you the language. You mentioned you like the language the AI uses.
Yes. Yes. I mean, if there's a category that's particularly deep for me, it's a category of deep transformation. I would spend a fair amount of time on it. But I don't want that to be a distraction for what we're doing here, because here we are about the software. We're about what's the process flow. Okay, so let's paint a picture of Shamrock is going to be the best trained, most well-behaved, and happiest pup around. So here's our vision. And I happen to live in a downtown area, and there are dogs that are allowed in the building, but they must be extremely well-behaved dogs. So I have been putting off getting a dog for a few years because it's a project to find a well-trained dog that's going to not be a nuisance for others in the building. Okay, so we're going to call this role Canine Maestro. And create a harmonious lifelong bond with Shamrock the Dog. We do have a dog in the building that's like that. His name is Willie, and he is just a joy. Everybody that sees him. Okay, so that's the beginning part, is connect with this project on an emotional level. And again, I'm emphasizing that we are light and fluffy in this training because we're more about the software. Okay, so 90-day results for we now want to think about the 90-day results for bringing Shamrock the Dog into the family. So the first would be select a breed that is compatible with the family's lifestyle. The second would be confirm that the condo, confirm the process that the condo association uses for approving dogs. Decide between a puppy or a rescue. Those sound like good 1-year goals, or maybe a 90-day goals, and adopt Shamrock. Anybody else think of any other goals that would need to happen in the next 90 days? if the ultimate outcome of this is 1 year from now, there's a loving, obedient, joyful dog that's part of the family.
I guess figure out who's gonna train the dog or how the dog gets trained.
Okay, so let's go over here and let's gonna add that in to select dog trainer. Now, it's personal preference on how you do this part of it, but I find that as I'm creating my items, if I'm setting a general time frame for when, it makes it a little bit easier for me to visualize. So at this point in time, it's in a week somewhere. I'm gonna say, middle of September. Like we wouldn't buy the dog before a planned trip here. So we can identify the trainer after we have figured out whether or not we're getting a rescue or a new or a puppy. All right, so let's come back up to our top level again. And let's think about what do we want at the end of the year. So we want a obedient, trained dog that doesn't bark at strangers. Very important. We want a doggy daycare arranged. We want to identify that's what we identify, a kennel for when traveling. Anything else we can think about at the end of the year? Oh, also we want to have a good relationship with a vet that is available when needed. In the area that I live, we actually have a few vet schools. But if something goes wrong on a weekend, it can be a little traumatic to find someone that will help. So anybody else, can anybody else think of from a goal point of view, anything else that you would do?
You gotta get your doggy supplies. Is that, I don't know if I'm following along properly.
Okay, so create a place for the dog in the home, including water bowl and food dish. Okay, now if we look at any of these 90-day goals, we can iterate a little bit. There's two ways we can go here. One way we can go is we can say, oh, this is going to be kind of big and it's going to take more than a week. And it lends itself to a project. Or the other way we could go is we could create a number of lists. We could just create a complete data dump of all of the things that are necessary in order to do this, and then we could create RPM blocks within those. For the purposes of our demonstration, we're going to create a project. And our project is decorating the home for Shamrock. What's the ultimate result? A home that is dog friendly and where the dog is set up for success. And the ultimate purpose is happy dog, beautiful home. And if we wanted to, we could go interact with the AI to gather some additional ideas on what we wanted this new project to look like. Anyone have any feelings about that? Do they need that emotional juice, or do you feel that this is sufficient for now.
This is okay.
Okay. I am definitely not I'm definitely not a writer. So in this new project, we have some key results. And one of the results is when a dog is adjusting to home, I'm going to do this as a selected dog crate. There are many opinions on this. In the environment that I live, it's a necessity. All right, so we would select a dog crate. That would be dependent upon what type of breed that I'm going to pick. And, you know, we're currently thinking mid-September is when we would want to get the dog. So let's say we're going to do that. What else would we do in making this a beautiful home? So we would select some dog toys that go with the decor. Anybody else have any ideas? I am and so these are results. They do not show up as an action in your action planner, which is what allows you to kind of keep up at that high level. Okay, so what else would we do for decorating the home for Shamrock? Custom order, food bowl, and water dish. So we put that out here. Anybody else have any ideas here? So now, as we go into a little bit more detail here, so selecting a dog crate is browse online at petco.com. Dog crate for dog crates. Now, when would I do that? I'd probably do that in the next couple of weeks. And that's probably going to be about half an hour to visit. Oh, where do they sell? Where else other than Petco do they sell dog supplies? Find a local retailer and look at dog. And I would probably do that, you know, somewhere in that next time frame. So what is a result, which is get the dog crate, might have multiple smaller actions associated with them. And that's the point in time where you're starting to think about, well, when am I going to do those things? You know, maybe I'm selecting this dog together with my 8-year-old niece that comes to visit only on Saturdays. Making sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a good, this is starting to turn into a good example because until you really start thinking about it, you don't realize how much is involved with bringing a dog into the household. There's a lot of little things to think about. And those little things, that time can add up. And if you're not planning for it and scheduling it as part of your week, this big priority, which is to have this loving thing as part of your life, might not happen. And so we've got some key results here. We've got some actions. We've got some general, we've got some general deadlines here. And now let's come back and where were we? Let's go look at what are our key results again on I want to go back from projects. I want to be back in categories. And that is a little navigating between projects and categories. I find it a little kerflucky. I'm not seamlessly going back up to my category. I do need to pay attention to, am I in a project or am I in a category? So let's talk about select a breed that's compatible with the family's lifestyle. Is that something that can be done in a week?
I would think so.
Yep, I would agree. So let's come over to actions and let's talk about that. So what would be the actions for selecting a dog breed? The first would be review a book, review research breeds online.
Mhm.
And so it's a city dog. So it has to be have a very low-key temperament. It has to be relatively small. And it needs to be good with kids. And hypoallergenic as well, because it's a building with a lot of other people in it. So, and again, in this example, I'm doing this with my 8-year-old niece. So when is the next Saturday that I'm going to spend time with her? So we're going to do it on Saturday, and she's going to come up about, I'd say 10 o'clock in the morning. So let's say we're going to do 10:30. And I think that she has some very definite ideas on this. So I think it's going to take a couple of hours. And so I've got that, and I'm checking. Yep, and that's in the week that we're scheduling. So we'll put that as an action. Anything else associated with looking at a dog breed other than saying I want, if she decides she wants an English sheepdog and that is the only dog that she feels that will do, there might be a action to research cost for an English for selected breed. So there's a few breeds that I have seen that are suitable for a city apartment. One of them is what do they call it? A Maltipoo. So it's a mixed breed between a Maltese and a poodle. There's a number of them, a Bernie Poo, a Cockapoo, where they have that combination of friendliness, but also not a lot of mess. And what I have found is that if I want to buy a puppy for that, the cost of some of those breeds is in the $6,000 to $10,000 range. So I think that should be part of the negotiation with my niece, so that there is a level of understanding of a consequence of a particular choice. If we were going to go with a Cocker Spaniel versus a Cockapoo, there's a significant cost difference there. So we're going to put that in. Let's say we're going to do some other things that day. We're going to have some fun as well. So let's say we go 30 minutes on that particular topic. Now, I know what I want, and I know generally where it's going to what it's going to cost. Do I need to do anything else in picking that breed?
I don't know, maybe talk to other people who have had the dog and sort of interview owners and get an idea what they're like.
Friends,
Yeah.
about their experience with this breed. And probably going to do that the next week. And I would probably not necessarily have all of those conversations together with my niece. I might collect some information and then decide, what to give her a summary of some of that information the next time that I see her. So maybe, so if she's coming on the 10th, maybe I'd do that during the week of the 12th. Anything else that you would think that we would do associated with just deciding what is it that we want?
You need to check out the breeders, just like you would be checking out a doctor. Because some breeders are just just breeding to breed, and that will make a difference to the health of your pet.
Find a reputable. Okay. How far will we travel? Some breeders, gym owner got a crossbreed. It was a Husky Pomeranian, and they flew to Las Vegas from Boston to pick up this dog. It was very, very special, very specific breed that they wanted. So how far are we willing to travel? And, you know, taking puppies on airplanes these days is easier than it used to be. But I think that needs to come into the decision process as we're picking a reputable breeder. So she's coming here, so it would be in this as well. And that may be a little circular for us. We may find that we need to revisit the conversation about what breed a couple times based upon what happens.
You also
Very
might
true.
find some of those breeds they have rescue groups for many, because many of these breeds that are now famous or whatever are two breeds or three breeds breeding together. So pardon me, I do not mean to offend anybody, but a lot of times they're mutts and they've just been given a name. And oftentimes they have rescue groups for these breeds. And so a lot of times you can get reasonably priced breeds, mixed breeds that you're looking for at rescue groups. That would be a cheaper way for your pricing.
It would definitely be cheaper, and can possibly be higher risk. If there is a dog that is a rescue that has been mistreated, we could find a situation where the dog is wonderful with me and bites one of the kids in the hallway. And that's something to be evaluated as part of this process, you know, temperament, history, you know, things like that. Are you finding the example getting fun because it's getting a little ridiculous?
No, I was laughing at the comment that when you mix two breeds, it's really just the mutt. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, I just always, why do you give it all these names?
It's good marketing, isn't it?
It actually it is. Like people talk about that stuff, and yeah, I don't have a dog. I'm not a dog person, but yeah,
I
just thought
should be
that was
transparent. I'm a veterinarian.
Sorry?
okay.
I'm a veterinarian, so I'll be transparent. You're absolutely correct. It's a marketing thing. There were, at the very beginning, it was to develop a better breed, but then people who don't really know about breeding jumped on board, because if you mix this cute one in with this cute one, unfortunately, it does, a lot of the new breeds, they're not even breeds, they're just names, are genetic defects. And so you have to be careful. And I agree with Maggie. Sometimes you can go to rescue groups and have a dog with a problem. Yet oftentimes nowadays, because so many people are breeding, thinking they're going to make a lot of money and realize how much it costs to actually have puppies, they're ending up in these rescue groups, and you can get actually puppies. And you just have to, you know, get the rest. And I have one right behind me, as a matter of fact. So you can, so that's where mine, if it gets too detailed, just tell me to shut up. I'm okay.
Well, this fits exactly, because now we've got some emotional juice in this, you know, because we have an objective. We want to bring a dog into the household, but we don't want that dog to need to leave the household because of some incident with others. And also we want the dog to be happy and healthy. You know, there are certain temperaments that just would not be suited for long hours alone. You know, so thank you for that. And that actually adds another action that I would think of, which is consult local vet for recommendations. Because in the towns where I grew up, often if there was some family circumstance that changed and that was a family dog that was well loved, there would be a conversation with the vet, wondering if there was some type of connection that could happen with another owner. So that is something that goes into the list as well. Now, this list is getting kind of crowded at this point, don't you think?
Mhm.
All right, so that leads us to our block, which is selecting the breed that will be happy and healthy. A city environment. And purpose is so that once we fall in love with the dog, we don't have to give him up.
So Maggie, I'm, the print is a little small. Excuse me, for me to read, which is okay. Do we
Okay.
have, checking the apartment where, or condos, wherever you live, their rules and standards first? Do we have that in that list?
We have it in the 90-day result, but we haven't turned it into a capture yet.
Okay,
Okay, so let's clean this one up a little bit, because I don't know about you, I'm getting overwhelmed with all the actions at this point. Find a rescue breeds. All right, so this is a little bit easier for me to process in my head. So we've got all these actions associated with selecting the dog. So I'm just gonna close that on up for the moment, because we've got everything that's associated with that all kind of grouped together. And now we're gonna come back over here and we're going to say, well, we've got a 90 days, Doug. Confirm the process the condo association uses for approving dogs. All right, so I need to consult the bylaws. And let's say I'm going to do that today, because that should be pretty, or tomorrow. And that should be pretty quick. It's going to be, 10 minutes. The next thing I'm going to do is call my friend on the board, check that there are no changes pending to the bylaws. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that next week as well. Now, I have a choice. I could say it's going to be in the week, and then when I get to scheduling, then I'm going to handle it again. Or I'm going to say, well, I know that I have time on Wednesday at 4. So I'm just going to put it in there. And then as I get to my week, I can move that around. But if that's a time that just works, then I only have to touch it once. So that's a subtle point, I think, that will make more sense when we get to scheduling. But what I have found is, for things that are definite, where I know that they have a determined time, I'm just assigning time from the very beginning, and then I don't have to handle it over and over again. Okay. Anything else that would go, that we need to be thinking about associated with our 90-day results? Let's look at our 90-day results and make sure we've got everything. So we've got the breed, we've got the condo association, we've got decide between a puppy or rescue. We've kind of merged that into the breed. We've got the actual adoption. We've got our project for creating a place in the home, including the water bowl and the fish dish. And what we don't have is an actual date for adopting Shamrock. And this is one that I wouldn't create an action for yet, because I haven't identified the channel I'm going to go through yet to do it. So it's next week when I come back and I'll review this category again, that will be there as something that I need to do. So to keep it straight in my own mind, I'm going to say actions. Actually, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Pending actions to be scheduled. It doesn't need to go into my calendar yet. It's just something that I know that I'm going to do after I get a bunch of other things done. You know, and so this is so we're visualizing, this is our starting point, but we're gonna touch this category over and over and over time, because this is a category of major improvement for us. You know, a year from now, this will not be a silent household. This will be a household with a dog that barks a little, but not enough to bother anybody else, and is enjoying her toys. So far, so good. Do we feel like we've got enough in terms of projects and actions and blocks?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, one thing that I wish we could see outside of a project here is, how is that all falling into a calendar? We can see that in a project, which makes a project a little bit easier when you need to visualize time. So we don't currently have anything in the project list for next week for this particular project. And how I'm going to see that is, now I'm done with this category. It's the only category that needed attention this week. Everything else is kind of running on autopilot, and we've scheduled it out. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my week, and I'm going to go to weekly plan. So I figured out everything I need to do with my weekly plan. And before we started this call, I did make sure that all my other categories were kind of taken care of. I had decided what time slot they were going to get, what level of priority they're going to get. Yep, David?
How did you get Shamrock the Dog in my weekly plan? It doesn't come up when I pull it up.
Okay, so how about if we allow you to share your screen and we go investigate your Shamrock the Dog category? But before we do that, click on this button called Unplanned. Because if you haven't assigned a specific day and time, you just said, this is something I'm going to do this week, it shows up in the unplanned category.
It's in neither.
Did you put it for a different week?
There you go. This week that ends on Sunday is one of the problems I have. Yeah, there it is.
Okay, now if you put it in the wrong week, you can take your action. You can click on these three dots and you can edit your action. You can change the date.
Now, I didn't put it in the wrong week. The weekly plan above considers today part of what I would consider last week.
Yep. And I think that that's one of the features that we're going to probably want to request that we add to the priority list for future enhancements, to allow us to select whether or not the week begins, what day of the week begins. Okay, so can everybody in their software see the actions for Shamrock the Dog?
Yeah, all good here.
Okay,
Yep,
good.
I see it. You see
Okay.
it?
All right. So these are the guys. So these are the ones that are planned. See how we've got the consult the bylaws that's showing up in the Shamrock the Dog section. We've got my call the friend on the board. I've got an unplanned action here. I'm going to pull that over as well, where I'm going to Jim, what would be the best way to take that unplanned item and bring it into the schedule?
You have the going to the actual schedule mode underneath the create button.
Yep.
That's one thing that's not very intuitive.
Okay.
Now you can do it.
Oh, really? Okay, so it's still not allowing me to drag and drop. All right, so this is how I have done it just for my own, because this is what works in my own head, is I'll be in plan mode. I'll go to unplanned. And I will move it from a week to a day and give it a time. So I'm gonna do that Friday when I get home from work in the gym. So 8 o'clock, I'll do a little bit of research before my niece comes over the next day. So now I
Good
don't
work,
have any,
Fran.
yeah, I don't have any unplanned actions for the week. Everything is planned. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tweak my schedule a little bit because I have all these great ideas, each one of these different projects. But when I look at how they fit together, there might not be opportunities for me to get all of them done. And so we can see the ones that are assigned time already because they're just appearing in the schedule. Anything that has a particular day, but it doesn't have a time is sitting up here at the top. And so these I can then drag down. And I don't currently see nothing for Shamrock the Dog in mine would show up here because I assigned a date and time at the point in time where I said, okay, this is my preliminary guess at the date and time of when I can do this. And see here, we've got our research breeds online showing up. And we've got research cost for the selected breed. That means that my gym time, well, I probably wasn't gonna be able to go visit a gym in that time frame anyways, because my niece would be very interested in that. So I'll move that to Sunday. And now I'm not, and now I've got a plan that's workable. Okay, and so that is what the weekly scheduling process is making sure that all of the actions are showing up in your schedule and that you have some date or time associated with that. And when I consider the end point for me to on the weekly hour of power is I've reviewed all of my categories. I made sure that there's nothing I'm carrying my head about actions. I've looked at the 90-day results. I checked in whether or not my results and actions are kind of lining up. And everything has its preliminary place in my schedule. And the place where I have found challenging as we went up the learning curve is what's the right level of detail for some of the things that I do. So for Shamrock the Dog, it's very discrete. You know, there's a set of tasks that if they don't get a time bucket in the week, they're just not going to happen. So it lends itself to this process very, very well. So the wheel that picked that particular category was nice to us. There are other things that I find don't work as well, which is for me, my work day is too dynamic. It doesn't make sense for me to take what's going on in my work calendar and duplicate it in this calendar. Instead, what I do is what I did before the software was created is I identify what are the 2 or 3 results that have to happen. You know, amidst all the chaos, what are the 2 or 3 results that have to happen for me to be making progress each day? And so that's, and so if there's an action that's associated with my work that shows up in this plan, those are the 2 or 3 things that must get done. But I have, you know, I have a calendar that is changing constantly. I have input that is changing constantly. I've just made a choice to not bring most of that chaos over to this software.
That's a really good strategy. It is an art.
I would say that the pendulum might swing back a little bit because at the moment I'm not utilizing the software to really do the strategic planning for my work categories. And there definitely could be some time and effort devoted to that. But my litmus test is, am I creating a to-do list anywhere? And if I'm not, if it's all in the software, then I think I've hit the right level of detail. Anybody have any thoughts so far? I see a lot of chat has come up. So let's see. Here we go. A lot of ideas have come through in the chat. So one of the chat questions that came up is if anyone has a fix it forever solution for dog barking. We did have a dog where we got him a dog collar because we moved to a neighborhood where dog barking wasn't allowed. I didn't like it. Any other thoughts? And is this particular example helping helping you wrap your mind around the process flow from the category all the way through?
Yeah. I could probably do this once a day for the next 10 days and keep learning little pieces.
We could
It's
schedule
helpful.
yeah. Schedule another check-in next week if you like.
Yeah, I would. I don't, if you're willing, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's helpful. I mean, I'm sure Jim would agree with this.
For sure.
The level of learning that you get when facilitating is off the charts.
Yeah, it is. It is for sure. And it does really help, Maggie. It's a great example. And I think that all of this stuff is about deciding between that art and science of how in detail you do. I agree that once you get to the point, my goal is to get to the point where this is the one tool that I use. So I have everything in one place, but they are developing the software now. So it's not quite there yet, but that's my end goal, is to have everything in one place and then not be thinking, which list did I put this on?
I bought a Kindle Scribe because I used to have so many different notebooks. Guess what I have inside the Kindle Scribe? Many different notebooks. You know, so there's one category for there's one notebook for my volunteer work, there's one notebook for work, there's one notebook for coaching and personal growth, there's another notebook for something else. So digesting that into what do I need, what are the actions? And what are the ones that have to do with what I'm trying to move forward? And in my personal case, work was too big a part of my life. So consciously keeping them separate and just really coming up a level and talking about just the things that I need to make sure that I keep my eyes on and don't forget about. That's been super helpful. The other thing that's been super helpful is, and not everyone has this as an opportunity, but I have a desk job. So something comes up, like I get a notification that my doctor retired. Okay, now I've got an action in my health category to go get that straightened out. I don't have to remember it, and that reduces an awful lot of stress.
For sure. Maggie, I'm going to have to go in a few minutes, but this has been really helpful. The one other thought that I wanted to put it out there for you is to avoid the confusion that one person had about, is Shamrock the Dog a project? Because bringing Shamrock into the home sounds like something with a finite detail, is even if without changing the title of it, with just thinking of it as like, and being the best owner. It's just like every one of these is an area where you want to have constant and never-ending improvement. You want to be constantly getting better and better at it. That's probably going to happen even after you onboard Shamrock. You're going to be continually learning new things about being the best owner and, being the most loving owner. You like that?
I think, and that had been my experiences as I worked with a particular category. My understanding of what is the improvement goal evolved.
Yeah.
It's like it's like an onion. And I do have someone in my team that has an adult dog and has hired a trainer recently. And the first level of training was, she came back and she reported, oh, they're training me, not the dog.
That's exactly what I was going to joke with Dylan about, is that the trainer actually trains. That's what happened in my experience too. I was like a few lessons into it, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I've been tricked here. I'm being taught how to be a better owner.
Yeah. And so and for me, that's a discovery process. Yeah, to understand why this is a category of improvement. I know it, but not necessarily at I know it at an intuitive level when I start. But as I work with the category, it becomes much more explicit.
Maggie, I have a category, but when we first did this, I have a category for my pets. Now, I'm a veterinarian, so of course my pets rank high, you know, I don't have kids, I don't have two-legged kids. And so that is a huge, and for me, it was, what is my priority in each day of my life that I'm going to do, and I'm going to have pets for as long as I can think of. And so, and even though this new pet is taking a project in that category, I have a category just for my pets.
You go. Okay, so I am going to schedule another call for next week. What I would like to ask David is please bring a category that is useful and important to you. That
I
we
have
can,
many.
yeah, that we can work through.
Okay, I have many.
Okay. All right, wonderful. So thank you for your time. There are a number of people that asked for this recording, so I will do some work to make that available.
Yeah, I'd love to see the recording as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you, Maggie. This
Thank
was
you,
really
Maggie.
helpful.
Great, thank you for everything.
Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you.
bye.
Bye.
How am I getting out of this?